Hello, my name is Bong de la Fuente, and my area of training has always been theology and film. And a few weeks back, we lost one of the greatest Filipino director, and his name is Mike De Leon. And I'd like to share a little bit of what I think about his work and maybe pay a little tribute to him as well. I grew up in the 80s, and Mike De Leon's name has always come up as one of the most promising, greatest director of the Philippine cinema. Actually, he occupies a rare space in Philippine cinema because he was not just a storyteller, he was not just a craftsman of images, he was a moral provocateur. He's a cultural critic, an artist who refused to let Filipinos look away from themselves. His films were not designed for easy viewing. They were unsettling encounters, mirrors that are held up to the nation's conscience, demanding reflection and sometimes even repentance. In that era, growing up, there were two Filipino directors that I look up to. I think they stand foremost in their quality, in their work, and that is, of course, Lino Broca and Mike De Leon. They tread the same pathway, but of course, they differ in some ways. Lino Broca gave voice to the struggles of the masses with raw passion and social urgency. Mike De Leon probed deeper into the psychological, structural, and historical forces that shape those struggles. He used cinema not just to protest, but to interrogate. He interrogated the very conscience and the memory of the Filipino. He made films that cut deep into the psyche of the Filipino. He exposes not just personal conflicts, but national wounds. He possessed both courage and clarity, qualities that allowed him to marry artistry with moral weight. Kisap Mata is a film that he made in 1981. I think it remains perhaps his most haunting masterpiece. It was loosely based on a true story. It tells the story of a father's suffocating control over his family. And it led to violence and tragedy. But when I saw it as a young person, I realized that it's more than just a family drama. Growing up and reflecting on that film, I began to realize it's really a metaphor for authoritarian rule. It reflected the climate of fear under dictatorship. As I was watching it, I was struck not just by the horror, but by its accuracy in portraying such authoritarian rule. How tyranny is not confined to the grand political narratives, but even it festers in the intimate spaces of the home. It was a chilling lesson that power, when unchecked, corrupts, even love. Batch 81 is a film he made in 1982, and it further cemented De Leon's reputation as a fearless social critic. On the surface, it is about fraternity initiation, but its brutal depiction of blind conformity and systemic abuse resonates as an allegory of authoritarianism and the human tendency to surrender individuality for the comfort of belonging. The film remains disturbingly relevant today, speaking to the dangers of complicity and the cyclical nature of violence. For me, it's an eye-opening. It was eye-opening. It reminded that institutions, however noble in their beginnings, can easily morph into instruments of oppression. Then came Sister Stella L., a landmark political film that brought faith and justice and labor rights together in a searing narrative. This was made in 1984, and I was a high school student in UP High School. And it was a required viewing for us. In a time of silence and fear, De Leon dared to amplify the cry for justice. It embodied in that it was embodied in that unforgettable line, kung hindi tayo kikilos, sino ang kikilos? Kung hindi ngayon, kailan pa? It was a film that made religion prophetic again, reminding both church and society that faith without justice is empty. And to this day, its voice continues to inspire movements for solidarity and reform. But perhaps one of his most intellectually daring work came later with Bayaning Third World. And this was made in 1999. Rather than presenting a conventional biopic of Jose Rizal, De Leon delivered a meta-cinematic interrogation of history itself through the lens of two filmmakers debating how to portray the national hero. The film deconstructed myths, questioned official narratives, and forced us to wrestle with the impossibility of capturing the truth about a figure so entangled in memory and ideology. And in doing so, De Leon challenged Filipinos to re-examine not just Rizal, but the way we construct history and national identity. For me, the film was liberating. It gave permission to question, to doubt, to wrestle with complexity instead of settling for comforting simplicity. Taken together, De Leon's films are more than a cinematic achievement. They are acts of cultural resistance. They confront our deepest fears, they expose the violence we normalize, and insist that history should be interrogated if it is to guide us, if it is to help us shape a better future. His legacy is not only artistic, but it is moral. He taught us that cinema is never neutral. It can either anesthetize or awaken. I found Mike De Leon's work more than an inspiration. I found a compass. His films challenged me to see art not as an escape, but as engagement. Not as entertainment, but as a responsibility. They instilled in me the conviction that truth telling is one of the highest calling of any storyteller, whether on screen, in writing, or in life. To honor Mike De Leon is to honor a conscience keeper of the Filipino soul. His films remain not as relics of the past, but as living testimonies, continually asking us, will we confront ourselves or will we look away? Will we look away? His answer was clear. And through his art, he has left us no excuse to remain blind. Thank you, and hopefully we will continue our dialogue as we talk about film and faith and religion.